Let's talk about this week's challenge, man, the Philadelphia Eagles. Undefeated group in their venue. They're plus 12 in the turnover game. They got corners who are a veteran group.
Touchdown, Pittsburgh! Pickett to Pickens!
On offense, Jalen's got an awesome collection of eligibles to throw the ball to. They got really good tight ends. They utilize them well.
Big hit by Minka Fitzpatrick. Tackled by Arthur Millette.
We're excited about this challenge. We got some work ahead of us. Obviously, we got to put together a really good plan, and we got to go out and execute that plan.
You could call them similar because they run RPOs, but I think their scheme is different. You know, the RPO structures, a lot of that's the same, but I think in terms of scheme and overall how they want to run their offense is different than Miami and how they call their plays. But there's some similarities. It does help that we've seen it, and you know, we just got to go play it again.
Hi everybody, I'm Missi Matthews and welcome to the Matchup Show presented by Unibet. We are talking Steelers at Eagles, the undefeated Philadelphia Eagles. I should add, before we break things down, let me introduce you to our panelists for today. We have Craig Wolfley from the Steelers Radio Network and also Dale Lolley from Steelers.com and SNR. And guys, there you heard from TA talking about the differences between Miami's offense that the Steelers saw on Sunday Night Football and what they're going to see in Jalen Hurts and company coming off a bye. So, Wolf, what are some similarities that can carry over from what the defense was able to do, especially in the second half against the Dolphins, till this Sunday?
Well, one of the things that you're going to notice is, number one, is that you don't have a left-handed quarterback. It completely reverses things about what you're going to look at. So defensively speaking, you're now going to be copacetic. It's back to normalcy as far as where that ball's coming out from. The second thing is the RPOs. RPOs are really nothing but play action with a run option added in it. And you got tremendous ball handling that was going on down in Miami. Mike Tomlin talked about it, how their play action was really terrific. And it was, by the way. And you're going to see much the same with the Philly offense because of the fact that Jalen Hurts is very well versed in all this too. And you think about this, the added element they got is he's not only thrown for 6 touchdowns, he's run for 6 touchdowns, which we didn't have with Tua because Tua, of course, had only rushed for 1 yard going into the game. So the fact of the matter is their offenses are similar. They'll run the usual inside-outside zone. They'll do some different stuff going down the field. You got some dynamic performers. But Miles Sanders is a guy that, in my mind, I think this is a guy, I believe he went the last time Steelers played him 74 yards or so. I mean, if I recall right, that's a capability of taking the yards. So you got big play explosivity with their ability to be able to have a running quarterback and some dynamic receivers.
Yeah, Wolf, the one difference between this offense and the one the Steelers saw last week in Miami, I think, is that the Eagles don't like to throw the ball deep a whole lot. They're getting rid of the ball quickly. If you look at it, I think it's like 7.1% of Jalen Hurts' passes this season have traveled 20 or more yards down the field. That's like the 4th fewest in the league. So they want to get the ball out quickly. They want to get it to their playmakers and let them run after the catch. And you know, A.J. Brown is really adept at that, as is Devontae Smith. So tackling the catch this week, while it was a huge thing last week against Hill and Waddle, I think it is just as big this week because it's a different challenge. Whereas, you know, Hill and Waddle are kind of like Smith, where they're gonna beat you with their speed. A guy like A.J. Brown is more like a running back when he gets the ball in his hands, and he'll run through arm tackles. You got to gang tackle these guys.
Whenever I hear about people that are going with the shorter routes than that, they say, well, if you're going to throw it short, I always remind myself, as of thus far, you just never know, because at some point in time they can crank it up, and given what you're playing, if you give them that opportunity, they could try to go yard at you anytime. But that's a great point you made, Dale.
Dale, after the game, Miles Jack said in Miami that the defense simmered down. That's when things became more manageable for them. We saw what they were able to do in the second half. What kind of things like that do you need to see that they did in the second half in this game so that you aren't letting Jalen Hurts and everybody else take advantage of the defense and make those splash plays and put points on the board quickly like Miami did?
You know, I think it's stopping the run first and foremost, and then They deepened up the linebackers in the middle of the field just a little bit to take away some of those middle of the field passes that the Dolphins were hitting there. This Philadelphia team offers a much different challenge, though, as Wolf alluded to in his first segment there, first statement, that with Hurts running the football, that adds a whole new dimension to this offense. Like, you kind of knew that Tua wasn't going to run the ball all that much. Well, Hurts will take off at any time with the football, and again, he's a 220-pound quarterback who runs like a running back. So this is a big challenge.
Wolf, knowing that the Steelers have had success defending Lamar Jackson, does that translate at all when you're going against Jalen Hurts?
The similarities of the schematics are in general. The specifics are according to the individual you're playing. And what you talk about with Lamar Jackson, he's a little more of a dynamic, explosive runner, which doesn't have necessarily carry over the same characteristics that you're going to see with Jalen Hurts. But the fact of the matter is, you understand schematically that you've got to do some things. Number one, you've got to keep everybody in front of you. You got to be able to tackle the mesh points. You got to be able to. Sometimes if you're gonna play slow the mesh points to string it out a little bit. That's an option too. But you always got to make sure your end man in line and your inside linebackers are on the same page, because you got to know when they start to run the RPOs and everything else, who's got who. If you don't communicate, it's not good. That's all I can tell you. It's just it turns out really bad.
Yeah, and Hurts isn't the speedster that Lamar Jackson is. I looked this up yesterday. Hurts at the NFL Combine ran a 4.59, which is still very fast for a quarterback, but it's Lamar Jackson beep beep speed, 4.4 or whatever he runs. So it's a little bit different style of runner than Lamar Jackson, but he's a powerful runner, as the 6 rushing touchdowns this season would kind of show.
Dale, the missed opportunities Coach Tomlin talked about in Miami, the 4 interceptions that could have drastically changed that game. Is it safe to say the Steelers have to win the turnover battle in Philly to win this game?
I mean, they have to win the turnover battle in every game, but I think if you're going to beat this Philly team, which has only turned the ball over twice this season, that sure would go a long ways towards helping. And sometimes those things kind of tend to even out over the course of a season. So maybe the Steelers can make that happen this weekend to start the ball rolling here. I believe the Eagles they're plus 12 6 games into the season. No team has been plus 12 6 games into the season or leading the league in turnovers and have the fewest turnovers since 1940. So this has just been a historic run for the Eagles thus far. Maybe their luck is due to run out.
Well, you think about this. The Eagles' defense is taking the ball away 1 out of every 5 or 6 possessions. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I mean that's like 1976 Pittsburgh Steelers, for crying out loud. You know what I mean? So yeah, you've got to win the battle of turnovers. And Dale pointed out they're a plus 12. And it's not the be all end all that tells you the health overall of the team, but it sure points to it. And I got to believe that turnovers are going to be huge going into Philly.
All right, guys, let's take a look at our Week 8 opening lines across the league, presented by Unibet Sportsbook, an official sportsbook partner of the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you're in Pennsylvania and ready to place your wagers on any of this weekend's matchups, just download the Unibet PA app, or you can visit pa.unibet.com. We have much more coming up here on the Matchup Show presented by Unibet. We're going to talk about Kenny Pickett and the Steelers offense. What do they need to do to get going and get some points on the board? We'll discuss that and much more when we return.
Giving guys balls on the run where they can run after catch and get good opportunities there. I think it's not just about throwing it deep. Sometimes, in the NFL, we got to scheme the deep balls. You're not just going to run by some of these guys. They're playing soft coverage. You can't do it. You get guys the ball on the run and, let our athletes be athletes and get them in space. I think that's another way we can get some of the splash plays.
Welcome back, everybody. Not only do the Eagles have a top 5 offense, they are also ranked top 5 in total defense. So, Dale, we saw the struggles the Steelers offense faced at the end of the game in Miami. What do they need to do specifically against this group on Sunday?
You know, it's not going to be easy, Missy. If you look at the two outside corners, Slay and Bradbury for the Eagles, I believe they're number 1 and number 2 in terms of passer rating against this season. They've been very good at shutting down passes outside the numbers. So I think you have to attack the middle of the field. And one thing that this Eagles defense doesn't do well is necessarily stop the run. They're allowing 5 yards per carry this season. The key has been is that teams haven't been able to run the ball as much against them because they've gotten down. The Eagles have scored, I believe it's like 60 or 70% of their points this season in the second quarter of games. So they're forcing teams to get away from that running game in that second quarter. So the Steelers have to keep this game close so they can continue to run the football, and they need to run the football effectively.
And certainly one of the things that I liked that they did in the last game was on some of the off-tackle plays. You know, you came in with a fullback. You got Derek Watt. The guy's got a neck like a Brahma bull, right? So lead up into the second level and let Najee run on a more linear fashion. Maybe not so much of the bounce, bang, and bend, the 3 Bs of the inside-outside zone, but maybe more of the linear traps and straight-ahead runs. I think you can go right at these guys. And I really like when they ran a off-tackle trap last week. They did with the right guard pulling, with an influence blocked by the tight end who went up to second level. It's changing what you do at the point of attack. And I think that Matt Canada structured a couple of plays there really well. And like Dale said, you got to go after these guys. And I believe that Kenny Pickett's got to show the same sort of fearlessness that he showed last week and be able to just come out there and put things out of your mind. Any bad plays, you move on. And if it was ever, in my mind, exhibited better than that 4th and 6 when he went down the middle to Freiermuth in a small window. And he showed me that this guy is a competitor. He's reaching for the win. He's not trying to play safe. He's reaching for the win.
Dale, we know the Steelers offense and Kenny Pickett have to take care of the football this week, especially going against this undefeated team and the defense, as you said. Chase Claypool talked a lot about more go balls. Kenny Pickett was asked about it, creating more splash. What do they need to do to create that?
Throw them. Because it's not like they don't have guys running down the field. I think Pickett needs to have that trust in guys in these one-on-one situations. He obviously has that trust. Wolf just talked about the play to Pat Freiermuth. Pat Freiermuth was not open on that play. That was Kenny Pickett trusting Pat Freiermuth on 4th and 6 with the game on the line to make a play. Well, do that with the other guys as well. Trust them to make a play. And, that's something that's only going to be born out of these guys working more and more together. We seem to forget that Pickett has played 3.5 quarters of NFL football to this point. So he's still learning here, but you have to trust these guys. They're not going to be college open like they were, running down the field at Pitt. You have to give your guys a chance. If you see George Pickens or you see Chase Claypool or Deontay Johnson in a one-on-one situation, you have to trust that they're going to make a play for you.
Do you see that trust starting between Pickett and Pickens?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's definitely something that you see. I think those two have worked more together because they were together so much in training camp. And that's the thing, Chase Claypool missed a bunch of time in training camp, as did Deontay Johnson. And so, in the early portion of this season, Kenny Pickett wasn't getting to work with those guys as much. So this is something that's still going to continue to develop over the course of this season.
You definitely have to trust your receivers. And I love what you're talking about there, Dale, the fact that you've got a guy, George Pickens and Kenny Pickett. Man, they got that mental ESPN, the mental telepathy thing going on. We saw that play in that 30-yarder where he settled in while they rotated the defense from one coverage scheme to another, and it didn't confuse Kenny, it didn't confuse George. They were on the same page and hooked up for 30. And that's just the building blocks for success that you need to build on weekly.
Well, do you think the Steelers need to tell Kenny Pickett to cut it loose, as you said, play with that swag that we saw so many times in the second half, or do they need to play conservatively because of the defense that they're going against?
I'm always in favor of a guy being who he is. A guy like Kenny, he's going to cut it loose. He is who he is. It's not that he's a gambler, he's a winner. He wants to win. So he's going to push that ball at times. He's going to do the things that made him successful in college and hopefully will carry over into the pros. The things and the elements that you think you've seen in the college, he can do in the pros. And again, I go to that throw to Pickens in the end zone. Touchdown. What perfect placement that was on a 7-yarder. The 30-yarder along the sideline. Just loop it over, find that soft spot in the zone. And then you got the Freiermuth over the middle on a 21-yarder. And you zip it in there, even though you had a couple of other guys that were shorter in shorter routes. He's going for the win. He's got the 21-yarder. It's 4th and 6. That takes a tremendous amount of confidence and strength of character to sit there and throw that ball on a 4th and 6, waiting for your tight end to clear a little bit, just a little bit, because that window was so small, as Dale pointed out.
All right, guys, well, it is Thursday, so we're going to do a little throwback Thursday, and Ben Roethlisberger had 2 of the 3 wins out of 15 by a rookie quarterback going against a 6-0 or better opponent. And that, of course, happened first against the Patriots and then against the Eagles in 2004. I know we all hate to compare Kenny Pickett to Ben Roethlisberger, but Dale, there have just been so many different similarities as he took over as the Steelers starting quarterback, the different matchups and games that we have seen. What do you remember from this one, and what do you think you could take away of something to say, hey, Kenny, do this?
I think this was another coming out party for Ben Roethlisberger. He had just beaten the Patriots the week before that. I believe the week before that they had gone down to Dallas, and he had led his first comeback. If it wasn't the week before that, it was a couple of weeks before that. He led his first fourth quarter comeback, and you started to look at this. They beat the Patriots, and that ended it was like a 20-game or 21-game road winning streak for the Patriots. And then the Eagles come to town, and they handled them easily. I mean, that game was never close, and you started to think, wow, this guy they might have something here. So if they can get on a similar such role with Kenny Pickett here in the second half, again, it took Roethlisberger, again, that was his 5th or 6th game at that point. If you get into that kind of rhythm here with Kenny Pickett in the second half of this season, I think you can see something special start to happen here. Maybe it doesn't mean you're obviously not going to go 15-1 like they did that year, but it's if you can continue to build on this season with Kenny Pickett and start winning some of these games in the second half when the schedule is so much easier in the second half than it's been to this point. You can really build some confidence here.
Dale summarized that the game perfectly. This is how my mind works, guys. What I remember about the Eagles play, the whole Eagles game, was Hines Ward doing the dirty bird in the end zone. And it looked like he was on a stair climber. And I was laughing, thinking, how did this guy go on to win Dancing with the Stars when he couldn't even do that in the end zone? So that's what I remember about that game, first and foremost.
And that's why we have you here for your expertise, Wolf. The things that we might not have remembered. We love that. All right, it's time now for our Yinz Chat predictive question of the day. You can head to the Steelers official mobile app and play Yinz Chat to win prizes. Our questions are updated daily. Here's the one for you guys today. Kenny Pickett over under 1.5 passing touchdowns. Dale.
I am going to go over.
Woo!
Over.
Good thing I gave you the drum roll.
Again, I think that they're starting to gain a little confidence here. They're getting closer. He had the one last week. There was one the week. He's due to have one of these games where he throws a couple. The one thing that this Eagles team has done, and I mentioned earlier in the show that they've really blitzed teams like crazy in the second quarter. They've been outscored in the second half of their games. So they are a team that will kind of try to get a big lead and coast. If the Steelers don't let them do that, I think you can maybe gain some momentum in the second half of this game.
I would agree. I would go over 2. I just see the Pickens-Pickett relationship growing. And I know that Chase Claypool, Deontay, they got to get on the action sooner or later. And certainly the connection Kenny has with Freiermuth is going to be valuable down around the goal line red zone area.
All right, guys. Well, we appreciate your time today here on the Matchup Show presented by Unibet. And thanks to everybody watching at home. Steelers and Eagles 1 o'clock kick at Lincoln Financial Field on Sunday. We'll be back next week to recap all of that for you. Have a great night, and thanks again for joining us.